Welcome to CultureVille, a talk show that shines light on urban culture in Middle Tennessee. We are your hosts, Damien
and Alicia. This week on CultureVille, we have D-Rvolution, an award-winning author and poet from Chicago, Illinois, who is stopping by to talk about his book, One Chance to Be a Man, that is based on his own life experiences.
Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Glad you guys invited me.
You have written and published 2 books and are ready to release a 3rd. What inspired you to become a writer?
When I was in Chicago, I seen the film Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. That inspired me. I felt like I liked the story so much, it inspired me to start writing. And I became a fan. I was a big fan of Spike Lee. Mm-hmm. And I started writing from that point on when I seen that film. And I went to school in downtown Chicago and learned a little bit about film and storytelling. So here I am today. I never got a chance to make a film, but I figured the next best way was to do poetry or write stories in the book.
Oh, that's good. That's nice.
So D-Rvolution is your stage name?
Yes.
So how did that come about?
D-Rvolution, everybody called me D in the beginning, and Revolution came from a joke that I cracked on the open mic one day. When I told everybody I was a revolutionary, and everybody started calling me D-Rev, D-Revolution or D-Rev. Okay.
So we already know that you're from Chicago. How did you end up in Tennessee?
Well, basically, the life in Chicago sort of forces you out if you want to do something. Right. With your life, if you want to do something with yourself. So my brother was living here in Tennessee, and I came down here to visit him. I got a job interview here, and I got the job, and I went home, packed my stuff, and I came back. Okay. And I've been here ever since.
Okay.
In the first chapter of your book, One Chance to Be a Man, you stated that this isn't another story about a black kid in poverty, but it's more of a story of a young man who used his disadvantages to become a man. How were you able to come up with that understanding?
I was able to come up with that understanding just by paying attention, observing things in the neighborhood, growing up in Chicago, just seeing things, and I started noticing just little signs how things were going versus what I was seeing on television. I just started noticing things and it made me look at life totally different. And I used some of those things to my advantage, you know, and even writing this book, I would not have the stories to tell had I not had that life. But this book has helped so many people, and that's the cool thing about it. And that's being able to use your disadvantage as an advantage. Yes. You know, there's a balance to everything. You just have to look for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of disadvantages, your mother passed from drugs. I know that she taught you how to sell weed. Why did you blame yourself for her passing?
Well, I learned all of my hustling and survival skills from my mom. Right. And as you get older, you know, when you again, that disadvantage of being black, they not hiring me, they wasn't hiring me, so I would sell, you know, I started selling weed, and then you start selling other things, and unfortunately, my mother was dealing with her demons, and she was, you know, using some drugs or whatever, so, I mean, the hustle was so hard that I would, in the moment, I would use drugs to sell to her friends, knew that she was getting high as well. So when she passed away from it, it was another disadvantage for me because I lost my mom, but it also showed me how this may be affecting other people, so I stopped selling drugs at that time.
You came up with multiple ways to survive. Do you feel that prepared you to become a man?
Absolutely. Even right now as we speak, you know, if I didn't know great survival skills, that's how I'm able to survive now. Now, the problem with that is that having that survival mentality is hard to get rid of it.
Right.
Even when you can do much more, you're still thinking in a survival mentality,
Right.
and that's what I struggle with now.
You say throughout the book there's a lot of things that had a psychological effect on you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't really think of every little thing that had a psychological effect, but I know everything that I saw made me think of something else. Mm-hmm. You know, when a friend of mine got shot, and he came to my house, he was bleeding, and I remember when the paramedics came, they cut off his clothes, and they left his blood-soaked clothes in the middle of the street.
Oh.
Right.
You know, and I didn't know, until a neighbor said to me, she said that was very unsanitary. She went and grabbed a bag off the street and took a twig and put his bloody clothes inside the bag. Mm-hmm. But had she not done that, I would have never thought about that was unsanitary for them to do. I was just, I didn't even think about it. But that moment made me think, like, would they do that in another neighborhood, you know?
Right. Now, in the book, you also discuss your treatment of women and how you finessed, right?
Well, I don't know. I had a certain mentality at the time, but
Right.
Just to correct that, women were bad to me too.
Okay.
But I was just a guy looking for love, and
Right.
and because you don't necessarily know how to get it, you use sex to. You think
Right.
that's doing that for you, but I was just looking for love. That's it.
So now that you have 4 daughters, what are you teaching them? How are you raising them, knowing how you used to be and how you used to interact with women?
Well, I'm trying to teach them to avoid guys like me,
Right.
but what happens is, and this is not to their moms, but what happens is because their mothers have not lived in that environment, they don't understand some of the things that I get upset about.
Right, like
because
you're
they have
hard on them.
Right, they don't understand that, so I have to deal more with their moms
Right.
than because their moms haven't lived that life. They don't understand it. I only understand it because I've been there. Understand how important a father figure can be in their life.
Right.
Which is something that I never had. That's why I got 4 kids. I never understood. No one was there to ever tell me how to be a man and not have children. Having children out of wedlock and things like that. So I'm trying to teach my daughters that, but their moms have to understand that.
But do you think the psychological effects make you harder on them?
I don't know. I never thought about it. It could, but I'm honest with them. No,
Right.
I'm honest with them. And
Okay, so after you moved to Nashville, you started taking your journaling seriously.
yeah, because it was Nashville was a culture shock to me, and I just started writing down everything that I was doing, and I had not ever been out of Chicago before I came here, and things was different. I started journaling. I was actually journaling before that, but I really just had time to journal when I moved here.
Book Half Empty, Half Full. It's not a true story, right?
No, Half Empty, Half Full is a fiction story.
Okay. And what inspired you to write that?
Well, Half Empty, Half Full is a story that I wrote based off a dream I had many, many years ago. But it's not a true story, but the things that happen in the story are true. Just a guy who's trying to do the right thing. A lot of my characters are built on redemption and trying to get over certain things. And this guy in Half Empty, Half Full just got out of prison, and he's just trying to make the right decisions, and he make a lot of mistakes out of fear that calls him a family member, and he is forced to become a single dad.
I think that what makes you a great author is the way that you tell stories and you make the tone relatable. It really makes you feel like you know the characters. What is your creative process?
Well, the secret to that, well, the first thing that I have that I think benefits me is that I don't care what anybody think when I write. I don't think about it.
Right.
You know, as long as I feel like as long as I'm getting my point across and
Right.
I'm telling my story, I don't care what others think. And the second thing is that to make my characters relatable is that people are always going to relate to emotion. And so if your character is going through real life situations
Right.
and he's emotionally feeling what you would feel as you read the book, you're going to relate to that person. You're like, man, that happened to me. Or you're going to say, oh,
Right.
I understand what that means. I understand how you feel right there. And so I write a lot of stories like that, real life things in a story where people can really relate to it and understand it. And it makes you really root for that character and understand that character.
How long does it take you to finish?
Well, it took me, this is what I'm going to say about that. It doesn't take, if you're focused, you should be able to write a book maybe, 6 months, actually write it, I believe. But it took me much longer because I wasn't writing every day. But because there's a whole nother process. Once you write the story, there's a whole nother process that you need to do with the editing and all of that, and formatting the book and things like that. So I mean, if you're focused, like completely focused on a book, I would say the whole thing would take maybe 8 or 9 months. If that's all you get up and do every day is write, in my opinion. Well, let me say for me.
Right. Was that for both books or just
Yeah,
One Chance to Be a Man?
for both books. I mean, my first book, I was trying to finish that book for years, but but life, just life kept getting in the way, and I would sit it down and not pick it up for months, and finally, I had some unfortunate things that happened to me that slowed me down a little bit, and I was able to get up and write every day and focus on it, and I finished it. With this book, same thing, I was writing this half empty, half full, and was just a lot of life things going on. So I never really got a chance to finish it right away.
Right.
And my third book coming out, The Nurse and the Poet, I've been working on that one now about a year. It's probably about a year and a half now, and I'm still trying to finish the book. But when it's just me, I have to work. I have to make money, and life gets in the way. I have kids, so I'm not always able to sit down and write the way that I need to write.
Okay.
When you wrote the One Chance to Be a Man, do you feel like because it was a personal story that it was like more difficult, like having to revisit the trauma?
Well, what's funny about that is that I didn't know it was trauma until I wrote the book.
Right.
When I wrote the book and I went back and read, I was like, oh my God, this is my life.
Yeah.
And it was normal for me. But when I wrote it and I would read it, and I started putting all the stuff in there, I didn't know my life had been so
Traumatized.
Right. I didn't know that until I actually read it. And that's the crazy thing about life.
Right.
Is that, it was just normal to me, and but One Chance, I'm glad I had to write the book. It was very therapeutic for me to write it.
Right.
So when I wrote it and finished it, I felt very accomplished, and I'm glad that I wrote it. But I didn't know at the time that I was writing it that I didn't know these stories would look the way they look.
Right.
It was just my life, So, I hope did that answer the question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, it's one thing to want to be a writer, but how did you start making complete novels?
Well, I mean, most people know me from doing spoken word. I had started, I told you earlier that I watched the movie Do the Right Thing. So I had started writing screenplays years ago in Chicago, because that's what I wanted to do. But, and then when I came here to Nashville, I started writing poetry. And I did that for many years, but I wanted to write my story. So when I wrote my book, my story, I just wanted to do that. But I enjoyed it so much that I decided to write another book and decided, okay, I'm pretty good at this. Let me just keep going. Yeah. And so, this way, I got maybe 4 screenplays I wrote. They're just sitting there, because I'm probably gonna never make a film. But with the books, I can sell those and people can read the stories. And so it makes it a little bit more interactive with the people,
Right.
So when I finished the first book, it wasn't that I was planning on writing books. It just suddenly I was like, well, maybe I should continue to write books, you know. And so then I wrote the second one. Now I'm writing the third one.
Do you have any advice for anyone who wants to become a writer?
Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. You know, because what happens is I mentor some authors, and what happens is a lot of people want to write, and they write it in their mind, or they think they, you know, but you have to actually sit down and do it. You have to actually sit down and put in the work, and actually, you know, actually do it. And that's what I'm saying. I know that's kind of cliche to say, but that's really what it comes down to. Don't worry about no punctuations, no mistakes. Just write it, and then deal with that stuff later. And that was some advice somebody gave me many, many years ago. It's just sit down and write it, and then go back and, you know, once you get it written, you can't unwrite it. So go back and deal with the mistakes after that. But the main thing is to sit down and just do it. Stop thinking about it and just do it.
Right. Now you mentioned being doing spoken word. And we know that you've been successful with that. You won an SEA. How was your experience with spoken word in Nashville?
I was one of the pioneers of spoken word in Nashville. It was a great. I had a good time. I don't perform anymore, but I had a good time, and I mentor some poets now in the new generation of poets. And you know, the most difficult thing about that is that like when I was coming up, we didn't have all the social media stuff, and I had to really get out there and take the grassroots approach to a lot of it, and get out there and pass out flyers, and all of that. And it's like, you know, when I talk to some of these younger poets, they don't understand, or I don't think they can relate to the type of work that I put in, because it's not like that for them, you know. And so, you know, it's a little frustrating for me at times, you know, because I'm like, okay, you know, I try to tell them to be professional at all costs, you know, when somebody about you to do a show, be on time and things like that. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm wasting my time, because they really, because I don't really understand their mindset. I understand it a little bit, but you know, it's you know, I'm from a different era, so, you know.
So you did mention the new book, The Nurse and the Poet. Can you give us a little sneak peek on what that story is about?
Well, The Nurse and the Poet, it's about a nurse who meets, who has a patient who comes into a hospital who is the killer of her husband's father. But she doesn't know that, of course, but she begins to read some of his poetry, because he was unconscious when he came in. They're trying to find out who he is, and she finds his journal, and she begins reading his poetry, and you know, and pretty much it's a lot of political things that comes out by reading his poetry. Police brutality, domestic violence, and things like that she has to deal with. You know, domestic violence at home, but it's related to this guy that's her patient. Everything she's dealing with comes back to this guy. And so it's just a lot of many things. It's just a lot of things that happen. And it's taken me a while to write it, because I'm not a very political person, so I have to do a lot of research for it. But I felt like it was my duty to talk about police brutality, police violence, and domestic violence. You know, I just felt like it was my job to tell a story about that and make it fun for people to read, but also put a lot of truth in there as well. So.
That's very interesting. So where can people find more information on you and your books? You
didn't realize that the book that your life was so traumatizing. Was it therapeutic for you to write the book?
It was therapeutic to write the book. Before the book was the poetry. I started writing poetry because I was having all these thoughts. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, nothing's going on. So I had a lot of time to sit and think, you know, compared to coming from Chicago, where there's something always going on. There's always somebody riding down the street blasting their music. There's always something going on. And when I got here, I was left with my thoughts of, I was watching the people around me, and I was thinking about the life I was just living, and that's when I knew something wasn't right, because I thought everybody was living the way I was living. Until I came somewhere else and I realized
it's more quiet.
It was quiet, and you know, and black people wasn't the same here. So I started writing down my thoughts I started writing, keeping the journal and writing my thoughts, and then I started writing poetry.
Right.
That's what made me really start writing, writing outside of the screenplays I was already writing, but I started writing down more poetic thoughts because I knew the way I had been living was wrong.
Right.
Only because I was able to see people living a different life, but I was in a different place, in a different culture, and I was able to see a different life, so I started writing the journal. So absolutely, this whole journey has been therapeutic for me. The book is also very therapeutic because I got a chance to tell my story, and I got a chance to tell my mother's story too.
Right.
So that was important to me.
So when you wrote the book and you put it out, how did that affect the relationships with your siblings and family members and people that are in the book?
Well, my family, my brother and sister, they won't read the book. I had some really traumatizing or a bad relationship with my brother for many years, and he won't read the book. We cool now, but
Right.
he won't read the book. I had some cousins read the book. They were not very happy with what I wrote, but they never expressed it to me. They told other
Right,
family
fine.
members,
Right.
about it, and so but the book itself has really, well, in so many ways, it's worked against me because if I meet a young lady and we vibing and she read the book, she don't want to talk to me no more, and that's happened now probably about 5 times, because first thing I'm gonna tell somebody, hey, I write books, I'm an author, I'm a poet,
Right.
and they be like, oh, I want to read it,
Right.
They read it, they don't want to talk to you no more, but it's nothing I can do about that,
Right.
but that's happened several times, where somebody read the book and treat you differently after they read the book, and I don't think it's fair to me, because it's my true story,
Right.
but
Right.
I mean, what can I do about that?
Right.
You said that you help upcoming artists
Yes.
and writers.
Yeah.
And you said that they don't know your struggle. The newer people
The
don't know
newer
your struggle.
generation of artists, I'm speaking mainly of the poets. They don't understand the groundwork that it takes to really, to really put your name up there in the spoken words. And everybody wants to be famous and known for what but they don't want to put in the work.
Right.
And I try to tell them it takes more than talent to be at the top of the game.
Exactly.
It takes more than talent. I wasn't the most talented poet out there,
Right.
but I worked harder than everybody else, so I was more
Right.
popular than everybody.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that they don't seem to understand, that it takes more than talent. If you bring out a CD, a lot of them want to bring out a poetry CD, who's gonna buy it? Nobody knows who you are. And I try to
Right.
tell them that, you don't bring out a CD until people start asking you, do you have a CD?
Yeah.
And I try to really get them to understand that it takes a lot more than just putting out work, spending money, do a CD and do all this stuff, and nobody, I got people today that's still asking me for my CDs that I brought out 10, 15 years ago.
Oh.
So, but I put in the work. I keep my name relevant, and I try to get them to understand that. You got to work hard. You got to be willing to put in the work, and you can't let technology make you lazy. You have to.
So what is blackbooksforus.com?
Blackbooksforus.com. First, let me say that my books are published through Soul Conscious Books. That's my daughter's name. I started a publishing company in her name. Blackbooksforus.com is a website where any black author can come and sell their books. We have a scale. If somebody wants to come and put their book on our website, they would get most of their money. They would pay a little fee to us. They would get most of their money, and you just get most of your money. When you compare it to Amazon, I'm not talking bad about Amazon, but I just had an idea that, you have a lot of black authors out here, they got this website, that website, this website over here. I wanted to make a one-stop shop website for all of us,
Right.
whoever wanted to come in and sell a book, and, we would ship it out. and you would get paid most of your money. We're not going to, but we're going to promote your book.
Yeah.
We're going to promote your book. It's not going to be a situation. We're going to be your partner.
Yeah.
At Black Books for Us, we're going to be your partner. So if you put your book on our website, you promote your book, you promote the website. We're going to promote your book and promote the website. And the website is doing pretty good. You know, I'm always promoting. It's always getting promoted. I got a Black Books for Us group on Facebook. They have over 5,000 members in it.
Okay.
I got a couple of groups on, but yeah, so that group, I'm about to change the name, but Black Books for Us, Black Books for United States, look for that on Facebook. There's over 5,000 members in there and growing every day. That's what it means, Black Books for United States.
Okay.
And so it's a whole machine that's building up behind that name. So it's a good place to put your book and sell your book, you know, without losing so much to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, but you know, this is mainly for paperbacks. If you have paperbacks, we haven't put anything there for e-copies yet. But if you have a paperback, join Black Books for Us. We'll send you the information.
Okay.
So where can people find more information on you and your books?
You can get the books from Black Books for Us. Black Books for Us at, no, I forget my email address. Black Books for Us at blackbookforus.com is where you can get the book. I also have a YouTube page where I also mentor some writers, people that want to do storytelling. Subscribe to my page. I give you good knowledge on storytelling. I've been studying storytelling for 30 years, and so I want to help a lot of authors, writers, poets on how to be at the top of your game. I give a lot of good advice on how to write books, how to do poetry, how to be the top poet in the city. You know, and you know, also I was a vendor for many years too. So I give a lot of advice on how to be a vendor. You know, on my YouTube page, just subscribe there, and I just spill a lot of knowledge on there. I have fun doing it. I love talking about writing and poetry. So you know, the page is very filled with a lot of knowledge and wisdom on, you know, storytelling in the way that you may understand it.
And the YouTube page is just D-Rvolution?
Yeah, it's D-Rvolution / no, it's YouTube / D-Rvolution, something like that. Yeah, you know, again, technology, I don't.
They can find it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure they'll put the link on here. D-Rvolution, YouTube / D-Rvolution is a YouTube. Where you get the books is blackbooksforus.com.
All right. Well, D-Rvolution, we have been, you know, having a good time talking to you today. We're glad that you came.
Thank you.
Everybody, make sure you go purchase his book on blackbooksforus.com.
That's it.
Subscribe to his Facebook group, Black Books for Us.
For United States.
For the United States. Okay. You're watching.
I'm sorry. And subscribe to my YouTube too.
Oh, and his YouTube channel. And your Instagram.
Instagram at Spoken Word Man.
Okay. Thank you for watching CultureVille. Or do I need to say